Hello there, boys and girls. I've got a letter. It's from the personified id of the internet. Dear WEGAF, you lazy slob, a while ago you mentioned that there was a Halloween episode you had planned. Well, where is it? Sincerely, personified id of the internet. Well, ask and ye shall receive, since it just so happens that I'm ready to launch into that one right now. Let's see. Oh, what month is it anyway? April? May? June? Well, unless this is fast. April, May, and or June. Oh, hackbrettles. And I was all set, too. And now what am I gonna do? Why, it's the spirit of completely forgotten holidays! What's up, Spiri?
Hark, mortal, there be one holiday in April, May, and or June which holds the answer to thy prayers.
Arbor Memorial and or Flag Day?
No, Holla Springyween.
Holla Springy Ween?
Holla Springyween. It is, in fact, today.
Is it anything like Halloween?
It is exactly the same, except completely different.
Well, that sounds ideal! Thanks, Spirit!
Think nothing of it. Now I must away. I am fine.
What a nice guy. Well, that solves my problem, so
Happy Halloween! Happy Holla Springyween!
yes, folks, I do love me some Holla Springy Ween. At least I think I do. And in honor of the occasion, I was originally going to do a horror story for this episode. But for various reasons, I have been a little squeezed lately, and I didn't have time to dig one up. So instead, here's something that's at least vaguely thematically appropriate. The first appearance of Nightmare and Sleepy. Yes, Sleepy. There will be jokes.
A diabolical scheme so cleverly worked out that an entire city seems doomed at the hand of an arch-villain, until the mighty crime-fighting duo of Nightmare and Sleepy appear on the scene too. But that's getting ahead of our story, which begins in Perfect Town.
Now that right there is some epic self-confidence. I mean, Perfect Town? Talk about jinxing yourself. That's like naming a place, "It can't get any worseville."
What could possibly go wrong?
The ultra-modern city in the heart of America holds its annual Sports Carnival, inviting contestants from all over the nation.
Boy, what a snazzy-looking burg, Bob. No wonder they call it the Perfect Town. No, not the Perfect Town, just Perfect Town. You don't call Perfect Town the Perfect Town. That would be like New York actually being named Big Apple, but still being called the Big Apple. I want to see that happen, actually. Anyway, the king of redundancy here is Terry Wake, the young pal, that's all we get, of
Bob White, noted wrestling ace.
Bob White. Bob White. Why does that sound so familiar? Just a second. Now I know. A bobwhite is a bird! Not a cool sort of bird either. A bobwhite is a quail, or in other words, one of the most completely harmless members of the avian species you could possibly name. I think your average wren is flashier and more aggressive than a quail. This is not a propitious secret identity. Gosh, Bob, I don't understand you. Telling the newspaper man I'm your manager. What's the gag? That's just to keep me out of the hands of phony promoters. This way I'm a free man. Get it, kid? Well, you may be a clever fellow, Bobby, my lad, but Mrs. Wake's boy, Terry, is not taking such a statement sitting down. that's what you think, chum. You made me your boss and I'm gonna be it. So remember, no clowning, get in there tonight, throw that guy for a loop. Bob, I think you may have created a monster. But enough of that for now. Let's move on to Perfect Town's City Hall, where the mayor has just finished his workday. Yep, time to kick back, relax, and play a nice game of checkers. Or at least that's what he has planned, but it seems a few of the details are going to be changed, with bullets if necessary. Mayor, you're going on up to the tower on the roof. There's a guy up there who wants to play checkers with you. Well, I said a few of the details, not all of them. Now, I'm going to skip ahead like a panel length and tell you something about the villain we're about to meet. This guy is so completely over the top that the voice that keeps coming into my head is that of Ed Wynn, by way of King Candy, along with a bit of Jim Carrey's Riddler thrown in. So that's how I'm going to voice it. I love this job.
Who are you, and what's the meaning of dragging me up here?
I am the checker, master of the sport you like, Mayor. And now, sit down at the table. We're going to play for big stakes. Ooh, this is gonna be fun.
Not so much for the citizens of Perfect Town, though, for while all this has been going on, the sports carnival is still in full swing, and Bob White, that fearsome little birdie, is aiming to win his match. So while he is locked in savage battle, and Terry is getting just a wee bit fanatical about this whole manager thing, all eyes are on him, and the audience is taken more than somewhat by surprise when the checker decides to make his first move via loudspeaker.
Attention, ladies and gentlemen. This is the checker. All citizens are warned to carry huge sums of money with them at all times to ransom their city. No one is to carry less than the amount of his last year's income, or the checker will have him checked.
Yeah, checker, come here. I think we need to have a little chat. First off, points for ambition. You could make one heck of a lot of money off this plan if it works, but there is no conceivable way that it will. Think about this. You want everyone in the entire city to carry last year's income around with them everywhere they go. But they've already spent what they made last year because it was last year. That dough paid for last March's rent and last April's steak and onions. Once you've spent money, you don't have it anymore. And even if they do somehow come up with it, you've got a whole lot of checking you're gonna have to do, because once you've taken it, it's gone again. And that at all times thing just flies right out the window, doesn't it? I mean, look, you wanna make this work? Here's how you do it.
All citizens must carry around all their money with them till we take it, then go home and stay there.
That plan would actually get you more loot than your original, with the added benefit of not having more holes in it than a fishing net. Also, why is Bob wrestling while still wearing his suit?
Whoa, that hurt.
Well, I suppose it's possible that he realized he'd forgotten to take his clothes off.
Oh man, you never want to do that. It's like the going to school naked dream in reverse.
Since he promptly
launches a devastating attack,
ending the match pretty quickly. Now, since this obviously made for a somewhat boring match, Super Manager Terry asks what the hurry was.
You heard that nut on the radio? If it's true about that ransom stuff, we're in a jam. With $30 between us, we ought to leave town.
Did you hear that, checker? This is exactly the sort of thing I was talking about. Wait. He's changing out of his suit. But he was just wearing his suit. And in the next panel, he's back in his suit. Or a suit. But it can't be the suit he was wrestling in because he was just changing out of it. So he gets to the stadium wearing his original suit. He goes backstage a change, takes off that suit. Then he puts on another suit that looks exactly the same as the first suit, goes and wrestles in that suit, goes backstage, takes off the second suit, puts on the old suit again. Suits! So many suits! It's just 2 suits, but it feels like 50! Why would you...
Oh, gods. The tie! He took off his tie! That means there must be another tie!
It's okay.
It's okay, folks, I'm fine. I'm back, I'm fine. Well, if you were thinking this Holla Springyween episode wasn't scary, think again. The mind takes you to strange and terrible places.
So anyway, Terry reminds Bob that there's a winner's ball that he promised they'd go to, and reveals that he brought these costumes for us to wear. Well, they'll come in handy when you embark on a life of crime fighting. Bob says fine, but after the ball, they beat it.
Meanwhile, in the municipal tower, the strange game of checkers progresses.
You lose one, and it's the city firehouse that's kidnapped. It'll cost the people a fortune to bring it back.
That's no good.
Back to Bob and Terry as they make their way to the ball, wearing their costumes under their suits and tie. Actually, it looks more like they're wearing scarves or something, and it just so happens that they happen to be in just the right spot to hear this.
Help! Spooks! The firehouse disappeared! It's gone, and I'm not a drinking man! I was just about to ride my car in when... poof! The building's gone!
At first, Terry figures that smoke must have settled on his brain. But then the checker chimes in on the radio that he has indeed stolen the firehouse, and his asking price for it is $100,000, which his men will collect from the passers-by. So he's literally ransoming off bits and pieces of the city by making select bits of them disappear based on the game he's playing with the mayor. You may color me intrigued. Well, this, it seems, is the final tipping point for Terry. You're right, this town's batty! Let's grab the next bus out! This conclusion is reached just a little bit late, however, as the checker has already claimed another of the mayor's pieces and declared that this one will signal the disappearance of the bus terminal and...
While you're figuring out the next move, me and the boys are gonna hop down and collect the ransom from the trapped passengers.
Said passengers, of course, include Bob and Terry, who were lucky enough to catch the last bus out of town. And their ride gets off to a bumpy start when Bob notices that the driver is not driving. In fact, he's not doing much of anything because he's been murdered. This despite the fact that the bus is clearly still moving.
We're moving, all right, but not forward. This terminal is being lowered somewhere. Like the firehouse, we're also disappearing. Excellent deduction. Yes, you are all being kidnapped.
Wow, this is one villain who believes in being punctual.
You are at the mercy of the checker. Line up against the wall outside the bus and have the money ready. It must be equal to the amount of a year's earnings, or else.
We come back to this again. How is he supposed to know what everybody on the bus earned last year? For that matter, they might not be carrying anything. I mean, of all the people in town, the ones who are leaving it would be the least likely to follow his commands, right? They might not be carrying anything. They might just have travel fare and shopping money. What would the checker do then? Would he set an example? He'd have to, wouldn't he? If this comic were written today, I guarantee you this scenario would turn into a horrible bloodbath. But it wasn't written today, so naturally the passengers do have the money. Somehow.
I made $2,500 last year. Here it is.
Liar! You're Benson the banker, and you made $50,000 last year! Well, that, my friends, was the last straw. Somebody's got to punch the bad guys in this comic, and Bob and Terry are about to elect themselves. The dirty, heady-good old man! Take off your coat, Terry. We're going to need plenty of room for swinging.
As the checker busies himself with the ransom money, Bob and Terry hastily remove their coats in the shadows of the terminal and pluck off the checker's henchmen silently and swiftly until...
Boss, look! Where did they come from?
That's the biggest until I've ever seen! And there's an exclamation point, too!
No, of course they're talking about Bob and Terry, who have yet to get their hero names. That's about to change, though, as the goon's bullet hits the fuse box and
Plunges the scene into darkness.
whereupon we discover that
The phosphorescent skeleton of Bob's costume shines in the dark. The mobsters shake with fright as they see...
I don't believe it! It's a nightmare!
Ooh yeah, dude kicking booty in a skeleton suit. It's all springy ween, y'all. But suddenly the checker pulls a lever and...
Ha! Bonehead! You can go a-hunting elsewhere.
More specifically, it dumps them and everyone else into the city water main, where at first it looks like they can just float along until they come out the other end. The checker, however, is not such a merciful man.
Gosh, the other end's been sealed. We'll drown like rats when this thing fills up.
Oh no! A problem!
Lucky for us, it's only a weak temporary seal. Aha, a solution. You're slipping, checker. So the water washes everyone through, someone else name drops Bob as a nightmare, and the two newly minted heroes dash off in pursuit of justice. Nightmare and Sleepy. Looks like we've earned ourselves a couple of new names. No, Bob, you've earned yourself a new name. I'm pretty sure you just pulled Sleepy out of thin air, and I have no idea why. I mean, Sleepy? Does that sound the least bit intimidating to you? When I think Sleepy, I don't think enemy of crime. I think of this guy. You might as well have called him Dopey or Bashful. Yes, there is a thematic connection, but you know what would have been a better one? Spooky. Nightmare and Spooky. Doesn't that ring well? What, were they afraid of getting sued by Harvey Comics a decade in the future? Still, Terry doesn't seem to object, so yeah. Nightmare and Sleepy, everyone.
Throughout the night, the fleet-footed Nightmare and Sleepy race until...
Hey, that's the city hall you're going to?
Yeah, kid, we're going to talk to the mayor. Maybe he'll let us look at the blueprints of this town. We'd like to see the mayor in regards to the checker menace.
Mayor Guardia's gone. I'm his secretary. Can I be of any help? I can call him up for you if you like. I'm sure he won't mind talking to a random man in a creepy costume hours after his bedtime.
But no, the somnolent Avengers decide to go try the cops instead, not knowing, of course, that the man they want to talk to is just a few floors above them, and that even now the man they want to talk to him about is returning from his little jaunt and continuing his game.
You lose again, Mayor, and this time the Vanderplop Mansion! With all the millionaires attending a party there, oh, I will clean up a fortune!
Vanderplop. I'd make a joke about that, but it's already made itself.
But meanwhile, at the Vanderplops, Count Basil is trapped by the romantic Bessie Vanderplop.
And that's all you need to know. Seriously, there is nothing more to say about the next few panels. Bessie tries her level best to seduce the poor Count, who applies the standard defense of the hapless aristocrat, namely going... The only thing that's really notable is this line.
Oh, isn't it just Birdie in here?
Buzz off! So, romantic is the scene that they are taken completely by surprise when...
My house, it's gone! And with all my guests, how scandalous!
Bessie and the Count, everyone! We will never see them again! While all this waffling has been going on, the yawning duo have been looking around for the police department, and they've just found it when that bad old Mr. Checker checks in with them once again to catch them up on his latest misdeeds.
You know the ransom rules. Deposit all money in mailbox half a block from City Hall.
Since when are those the rules, may I ask? I thought we already went over this in great detail.
Well, I guess he makes the rules so he can change them. Whatever the case is, naturally Nightmare and Not-Off Boy decide to trek back towards City Hall so they can sit and watch the mailbox in question. And at this point, they're probably glad of the rest. At first, everything seems to be going smoothly. People drop off their cash in the mailbox one by one, and then a car shows up.
But Nightmare is no dummy, and he quickly realizes that this is all just too good to be true.
Easy, Sleepy. I'm beginning to see through this thing. They're going to... Look, the mailbox with the money! It's gone! They stole it!
No, it was false! It was tricks for the money to slide to the ground to throw off the police if they were here! Come on, kid! Okay, Checker, we're after your kings!
That impressive leap was all for naught, however, as there's no one in the car now. Since, as Nightmare puts it, they got wise to us. Fortunately, they did so slowly enough that they're able to be chased on foot. Unfortunately, they get led into a dead-end alleyway. Double unfortunately, that means the crooks can now take pot shots at him. This makes Drowsy Lad angry.
Why, I'll get that shooting so-and-so if I have to...
Forget them! We hit the jackpot! I knocked you into the nameplate. It was a switch for this secret entrance. This one right here. Yes, sir, this secret entrance right here. The one you haven't noticed yet and no one else ever sees. That one. It's the best kind!
So down through the invisible secret entrance they go, and once more come across the Checker and his men. Which means, of course, it's time for action again.
Okay, Checker, start checking out!
Yow, it's those spooks!
See? Spooky. Spooky. Nightmare and spooky.
How hard is this to understand? Meet Sleepy!
You're toying with me, aren't you? I will say this, though, he does look awfully cool during this sequence. It's just a shame he doesn't sound as cool. So in the confusion, the Checker slips away, and the Naptime Crusaders follow close on his heels. After a quick dash up a spiral staircase,
Man, but these guys must be winded by now.
they find themselves back in City Hall, where the Checker's voice floats down liltingly from up above.
Your move, Mayor, and you've only got one Checker left.
What are we waiting for?
Well, for one thing, they've got a loose end to tie up, as the secretary they talked to earlier appears to be up to some skullduggery. A quick punch solves that, though, and then they've got a new toy to play with.
Gosh, look at all them levers. Must be some kind of a control system.
He's had a lot of fun pushing them down. Now we're going to push them up and see what happens. It might be anything. It might be a bomb or a tidal wave or the summoning of primordial chaos. But one way or the other, I'm going in. In the tower, the game continues. Your last chance, Mayor, and that's the reservoir. The city will go without water unless I get $5 million and the bodies of Nightmare and Sleepy. But you lose all around this time, Checker. The reservoir is still there and the missing buildings have returned to their proper places. What? What? But, no, but, evil! I was doing such beautiful evil! What happened?
Why, this guy happened, of course, and he's had just about enough of your guff. The Checker, however, has one last move to play.
Here comes the payoff! Yeah, and you're paying in blood! With the speed of a bullet, Sleepy sends the wooden checkerboard streaking through space to score a bullseye!
It takes a checkerboard to stop the Checker.
Oh, thank you, Captain Obvious. You've saved the day again. So the villain is finally defeated,
And now at last comes the grand unmasking. Who is the Checker? Why, it's my secretary's brother!
Of course! I knew it all along.
You see, Mayor, Perfect Town was an experiment. Giant elevators could slide buildings earthward during an air raid.
Okay, why is he learning this from you? I mean, seriously, if you were made the mayor of a place like that, what would be the first things you'd learn? This is the number of the chief of police, this is the number of the fire chief, and these are the controls for lowering the town underground and or scaring the pants off people when you're feeling bored. How does he not know this already? Well, alright, there is sort of a reason.
Before your engineer could reveal the location of the control switch, he was murdered by the Checker so he and his brothers could operate the mad scheme. A Mike carried Checker's orders to his brother in the control room. Amazing!
Indeed.
Well, now I'd like to thank you two for...
Uh-oh, this is where we leave.
And so do we! Well, this comic has some pretty obvious flaws. I'll give it one thing. It's got a pretty cool villain. This was the Checker's one and only appearance, and while I can understand why, his
theme really only works under very specific circumstances, it's still kind of a shame. Yeah, he's goofy and all, but in the sort of way that, say, Batman villains of the period would be. He's having such a good time being evil that he becomes oddly lovable, in a weird sort of way. And of course it doesn't hurt that he looks so distinctive. I mean, the yellow checks, the googly blue eyes, the grin. It's really kind of impossible to mistake him for anyone else.
So farewell, Checker, you crazy weird man.
Now then, to wrap things up. A small amount of power, improperly granted, is a surer path towards an authoritarian mindset. Wrestling in a suit and tie is apparently not the least bit strange in perfect town circles. When asked to repeatedly beggar themselves for purposes of random extortion, people are surprisingly eager to oblige. Mayors are one of the last links in a city's chain of command, one of the first, of course, being the janitor, and... Happy Hollow Springy Bean!